we're so far away, even though, we're different cultures, different language, we have a connection that we understand something together. And that can connect you to people all over the world. Music does that in a way that almost nothing else does. Music has a way of making us feel like we're not so alone. That's why great lyrics are so important, because good lyrics are the things that can bring people together. Yeah, musically that gets the beat going, whatever. But when you connect, especially over the words, you can say, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Then you're not alone. And you realize that the world is not such a horrible, terrible, scary place. Because, I've been saying it since the beginning that life is suffering, but it's so much more than just that. It's also music. And without music, without dancing, life itself would be a mistake. Does that give us a meaning outside of ourselves? Can we now, be there for others? And very importantly, now what? Can we grow from that together? Can we dig ourselves out of that hole? Can we dig ourselves out of that depression? Can we realize that there's a reason to get better, to help others get better, and to get better ourselves? Yeah. So, how you answer that question is going to be one of the most important questions of your life. Now what? Is there any other value in something like that? Knowing what problems other people have? So I asked this question because it's a Rorschach test. It is a Rorschach test. If we're thinking about it, trying to figure out, well, why would I want to know what other people are going through? It could be so I can help them. That's true. And then that tells me something about your personality. If it's so I can understand them, I can see where they're coming from, I can sympathize, that tells me something about your personality. If your answer is something to the effect of, well, because it makes me realize that other people have problems and I'm not the only one, then that tells me something about you. It's it's almost like it goes back to those archetypes, and it tells us what it is that we're ultimately after, depending on our personality type. There are personality types that are looking for connection to others. You want to be able to feel like you're connected to others. I'm not so alone. I'm not so isolated. I'm not like proof rock. I'm not so alienated. It could be something where you want to feel a connection to others, just in terms of being close to them, to understanding them. You want to understand other people, because if you understand other people, it makes us also not feel so alone, because at the very least, we know where they're coming from. Part of this problem when we look at the world, especially if we're in a place where we feel like we don't belong. For example, I have a former student. He's one of the smartest people I've ever known. No joke. This guy's got to be top 20 smartest people I've ever known in my life. And he graduated, had to have been about 10 years ago. I still interact with him from time to time. And he was from TJ, his family's from TJ, and all of the things that kind of go along with that. They're a big family, loud, a lot of celebrations. He's very introverted and doesn't like participating in those things. And it makes him really uncomfortable. So he would tell me these stories where they'd have like these big gatherings, and then he would go and sit in his room and he would read or whatever. And he didn't even particularly like reading that much. It was just kind of like as a way of escaping from that situation, I guess. And he told me that his uncles would come in the room and say, "Come on, Joe, you have to come out." And he'd be like, "I don't want to, I don't feel comfortable." And they tell him, "Hey, this isn't about you, this is about the family." And and they would literally drag him out when he was younger. As he got older, they couldn't drag him out anymore because he was bigger. But he said it got him wondering how many people from his family were there when they felt the same way as him, but they were more kind of persuaded to just go by that guilt trip of family. And so he said it would make him feel a lot better to know that other people were doing it, because it would make him feel like, well, they can do it, I can do it. But also it would make him feel like out of these, and he said the gatherings would be like 70, 80 people, sometimes 100 people at their bigger ones. That it would be like he was not just the 1 out of 70 or not the 1 out of 100 who felt the way that he was feeling. Made him feel like he wouldn't be so isolated, so alone. And so part of it is also that, to be able to not feel like we're the only ones. You know? So I wrote that, it's kind of like a concert t-shirt. If you go to a concert and you get a t-shirt for it, let's say, and then you wear it, there's a very good chance that somebody else in the school is going to recognize it. Maybe they were at the concert themselves. Sometimes it won't be people that you realize. It'll be people who you'll be surprised that you guys have a similar musical taste. And that's one of those things about, oh man, it's such a big issue. Oh yeah, I'll do it. Are there any musicians in here? None? What's that? Yeah. I asked that question knowing that there are, but kind of curious to see if people will identify themselves. Yeah. It's kind of like this. You start a band. And why do you start a band? Because, you know, you feel a little different, a little strange, a little odd, so you start a band. Or you actually start playing an instrument, I guess. And then after years of playing that instrument, you get pretty good at it. And then just kind of like by chance, you come across people who have a similar musical taste to you, or even just like music, even if the tastes are different. And then you spend some time together, and you guys start a band together, and you can kind of congeal around this idea that we're different from everybody else. We feel different from other people. And so you start to write songs, and you start to express the things that you're feeling, either musically or lyrically, if you're particularly good at it. And you're just like a collection of weirdos, 3, 4, 5 weirdos. And then you start playing, but at least you have that little tribe, and that's all you really need. You know, if you have like 2 or 3 good pals, 2 or 3 good friends, you have yourself a tribe. And that's all you really need. So this little tribe formulates, and you guys go out and you play some shows, and then a strange thing happens. You're playing one day and you see people kind of nodding their heads, dance, moving along with you, and then afterwards they're telling you how much they like what you're doing. And you're like, wow, we have some fans. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and all of a sudden that starts to grow until you have a very large, almost like an external tribe, a tribe outside of that small group. Like you guys are the foundation of it, but now you have all of these people around you who are liking what you're doing. And then you catch on, maybe you get a record deal, you get distributed, and then all of a sudden your small band of 200, 300, 400 fans becomes thousands, or even, God willing, becomes millions. And then one day you're standing on a stage and you're looking out there and you say, holy shit, I thought I was alone. The whole reason I started playing this instrument, or started playing this music, was because I thought I was the only one. And then it turns out there's millions of us out there who are feeling the same way. And that's kind of the value of like a concert t-shirt, is that you can see that there's somebody else as you're just walking around the mall or walking around school who feels the same way as you do. The music hits them enough that they don't just listen to it. They don't just play it in the background, but they actually get the t-shirt for it. They stand in line, they get the shirt for it. And that tells you that you aren't alone. That hypothetically, you like the music, and so you realize there's somebody else. But then again, the band might be a really old band. Maybe the band's 50 years old, maybe it's 20 years old, maybe it's 10 years old. Maybe they're not even around anymore. So you think like, oh man, my chance to make that connection is gone. Even if you don't realize that consciously, there's an unconscious thing going on there. And so then you see somebody else with the same tastes, and you go, wow, I'm not alone. Maybe that's why you form a band with somebody, because you realize you have a similar taste from that band that broke up 20 years ago. You come together. That's why music has this way of just breaking down these barriers between everything: race, culture, class. I remember, some of you guys know the band System of a Down. You guys are, I'm sure, fans. I was friends with them before they became like System of a Down. We played in the clubs together. The absolute nicest guys in the world. If anybody deserved to make it, it's these guys. They're incredibly nice guys. I remember I was over in Paris, and they were already on their way up, but they weren't like huge yet, but they were already kind of on their way up. And I was in Paris, and I saw these 2 kids, probably like 13 years old or so, wearing System of a Down t-shirts. I was like, dude, that's so cool, man. This is a long way away from Los Angeles. It's a long way from Los Angeles in every way, geographically, culturally, every way. But there was something that I looked at these dudes and I was like, we have something, wherever I was like 19 or 18, wherever I was thinking like, Even though we're so far away, even though we're different cultures, different language, we have a connection that we understand something together, and that can connect you to people all over the world. Music does that in a way that almost nothing else does. Music has a way of making us feel like we're not so alone. That's why great lyrics are so important, because good lyrics are the things that can bring people together. Yeah, musically that gets the beat going, whatever. But when you connect, especially over the words, you can say, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Then you're not alone. And you realize that the world is not such a horrible, terrible, scary place. Because, yeah, I've been saying it since the beginning that life is suffering, but it's so much more than just that. It's also music. And without music, without dancing, life itself would be a mistake. You need these things. And so, no other creature makes music the way we do. People will say, well, birds whistle. That's because they're doing it for a purpose, though. Humans do it just because it's beautiful. It's like, he just asked earlier when he asked me, what's the question? Something about, life is, or the world is full of blank. And that's a Rorschach test. The world is full of what? Pain, misery, sadness, disappointment. Yeah. The world is full of beauty, man. The world is full of beauty. And sometimes, and it's the strange thing, if you recognize that, and if you see that, that can make you the weirdo for a lot of people, to see beauty in things. And that can make you feel alienated and isolated. Like, I see the beauty in it, but other people sometimes seem like dead set they don't want to see it. So maybe that's your charge in life, to help people see the beauty of life, to see the beauty in things, to see the beauty in a leaf, to see a universe in a grain of sand, or a grain of rice, as Blake says. And so we are more likely to feel depressed by the perpetually smiling person. That's true. When we realize that other people feel the same way as we do, there's something that's connecting about that. It creates a deep sympathy and understanding. Now we know why they are the way they are, but also we know why we are the way that we are. Now the question is going to be, does that give us a meaning outside of ourselves? Can we now, be there for others? And very importantly, now what? Can we grow from that together? Can we dig ourselves out of that hole? Can we dig ourselves out of that depression? Can we realize that there's a reason to get better, to help others get better, and to get better ourselves? Yeah. So how you answer that question is going to be one of the most important questions of your life. Now what? Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Neat. Happy Tuesday. Not so bad. Today's a great day. Today is a privileged day. You guys realize this? We're in the presence of royalty. We've got Thumper, who's not even listening, but he is. Sometimes you inherit your princedom, okay? Sometimes it's earned. And then we also have Evelyn. So I heard those names yesterday.